Welcome in, everybody. It's Esports Weekly yet again. Thanks for tuning in early on a Monday. Agro, I'll be your host all day today. But as always, I'm joined on the desk by Hindu Man and by Taco as we get ready to get our picks in for the SPL. But first, we should go back over and see what happened last week. Before we get to seeing our standings, where I'm sure I continue to dominate, let's take a look in Europe real quick. Mouse Sports. I mean, this team, with their roster change, we weren't really sure about them last week. You know, how are they going to do? I think that you could probably make the argument that they look better than ever right now.
Well, the thing about Mouse and the biggest story for me is we saw a lot of tweets go out when Jermaine was on this team from the Mouse team about scrims and things like that. And I think that was just true.
Yeah.
I actually think that was just true, is that Jermaine wasn't turning up to scrims. These guys couldn't get the whole team together to practice enough. But with Spudio being added, it seems they finally found a rhythm together.
I think Spudio definitely escalated this roster to bringing forward more of their potential that we've always kind of known to be there, but never really seen actually being brought forward. And part of that probably was largely due to the fact that Jermaine was just always missing. How are you meant to practice as a team when you know that one of your players, and also arguably one of your star players, is never available?
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, it is a different environment. It's not just like, oh, well, our ADC is going to be a little bit different without Jermaine here. You know, we'll have a sub in scrims, but it's only the ADC. Like, it's not a big deal. It's the whole team environment, right? Like, everything changes for you when your communication is different, where you expect your hunter to be. And I do think that's made an impact for Mouse Sports, but I also don't think we should take credit away from how well Nika has played as of late, for how well Big Man Tings has played, how well Cherio, Dardez, like the whole group seems to have stepped up their game.
But I actually think a lot of that is because they've had to lose Jermaine. I think losing Jermaine has actually made the team go, oh crap, we don't have that dual lane powerhouse that once was everyone recognizes and has issues with. Like, we've lost Jermaine. That is a big impact on the team. We need to make up for that in other areas. And I'm glad to see Nika stepping up, because for me, Nika's really struggled in the Pro League. Like, I don't know how he's still on our team the way he performed, but the last week or so, it shows now.
It does. He's certainly looking a lot better. All right, on to NA. Last week, I think the big one, the big match that I'm looking at was CLG Splice, because Splice was on the up and up. Like, they were in a great position. CLG was winless so far at the beginning of the week. Then on Friday, CLG had already found one win earlier on in the week, but they managed to take it to Splice and look pretty good doing it.
I think CLG also kind of just ramped things up a bit. Hurrywin played, I think, the best that he has looked so far in Season 5 in 1 week alone. So if we can continue to see repeat performances of that Hurrywin, then CLG might not be as out of it as we were originally assuming.
We were talking about like how well their spring started. Recently. Like, spring started so well for them, and then they dropped off, and into summer, it's been the same as the drop-off in spring until this Splice game. Question is, though, it's still Splice. They're still an up-and-coming team. CLG should be seen as more of than an up-and-coming team right now, but they need to keep finding these wins. They've got to keep putting these lower-end teams to bed, and I would class as Splice a lower-end team to the CLG roster.
I mean, I think on paper it's fair to say that, but with how they performed in the summer split on each side, Splice was the favorite going into that set.
The thing is, I voted for Splice that set because I felt like Splice were doing a lot more than CLG, but CLG are finding the momentum they should have had anyway coming into the split.
Sure. You said that you voted for Splice. I know I voted for CLG, and you should have gone with me because, you know, we can take a look, actually. I've got a graphic that shows you exactly how far ahead I am of everyone else in the predictions. We'll come up to that.
That's a schedule, Aggro.
That's
a schedule.
This is last week.
This is last week. Aggro.
Hey,
wow, good job, Ryan.
You really knew it was coming up
next.
What
a good job being a host.
That's really glad to have a lot of supportive members of the team here up on the desk with me. Even FDOT from the casual set yelling over. Nice percentages, guys.
Thank you.
Below 70%.
I like to make
3 weeks.
A bunch
I
of
just
dudes.
want you guys to get comfortable. That's all that we're trying to accomplish here. You think you're clearly out ahead in the lead, being a whole 10% higher, when in reality, this was my plan all along.
Oh, yeah, you're playing the long con.
I'm still trying to learn how that works, by the way.
If you're grayed out, that means you missed it. So Taco misses Obey versus Rival.
Now I get it.
She picks Obey.
I just saw light and dark, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm at 66%. I don't know how that works, but it did.
No, that was your last week's picks. If it's darker, you missed. Where you guys saw Splice instead of CLG, you were darker. Nice and bright with the CLG selection. So as we move into our week 4 predictions, just keep in mind, 73% right here. Something to keep in mind. Monday, today, later on, we got a great day of games ahead of us. Team Dignitas up against Team Rival will be our first one as we take a look at the whole week's schedule we're going to go through every single one of these games.
What a big game.
And give our prediction. But yeah, this one to start off the week is nuts.
Well, this is a repeat of the first week because remember, this is a 6-week split. Every team will play each other twice. All the teams have already played each other once.
Right.
And now we get a rematch of the first week games, which is the big boys. Like SSG versus EU United is going to be interesting there as well. And then you've also got Dig as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's get to the first one then, and we'll go to Space Station United right after that. Dignitas versus Rival. The triangle has been broken, right?
Yes.
Like it isn't guaranteed to go Dignitas' way. We actually have an opportunity to discuss this match. Before it was Dignitas beat Rival, Rival beat Energy, Energy beat Dig. No longer. Energy broke that. They beat Rival. So what can Rival do now to beat up on Dignitas?
I don't know. I still think it's going to be Dig this game. And that's the hardest thing I've had to say is that I think Rival could get to the game, sure, but I still think this is Dig's.
I feel like I've just gone all in this week and pretty much had to full commit because every time I say Rival's going to win, they lose. And every time I think that Rival might lose, they win.
Can you think Rival are going to win then? So I'll be right.
I think there's some possibility
nice.
for Rival to actually beat Dignitas here. Dignitas have been really strong. I think that they definitely know what their strengths are coming into this summer split, and they've been seemingly playing around more often. Cuvo and Zero specifically, those two have felt like almost everything on the team, and I think even Variety has ultimately stepped it up pretty heavily.
I will say Rival's point of view, though, they've gone very Giro Lane heavy. I think those two in the Giro Lane, Vote and Callus, are getting a lot more respect over there now and are being a bit more of a threat. But the problem is that like that can draw some attention because I feel they're the ones that are really putting a little bit more work in than the other members of Rival now. Not trying to discredit Wolfie or Deathwalker, I just think they're playing through the Giro Lane a lot more.
Yeah, it has worked out well for Rival thus far. They looked very good in their set against Obey for the most part. Wolfie continues to impress, specifically on that Giannis selection. Where do you guys feel like this is going to go? Taco, we'll start with you, since you are the antithesis of whatever Rival's actually going to do.
I would change my vote if she goes for like.
Yeah, we can. Probably
I went for Rival. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm okay with that. Then.
Oh yeah, good. Okay,
That's
I've got Dignitas.
I'm
then,
Dig.
so yep, cool. We're nice and easy there.
Thanks,
Taco.
Taco.
Yeah, I appreciate you locking us in there. I just think Dignitas and Energy are a little bit better than everyone else in the world right now. So that's why I'm kind of leaning their way.
Dignitas and Energy over Rival?
Yeah, I think so.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Energy has looked so good.
I think it's Dig Rival.
I think it's still too close to call, and Energy I think might just be the best team in EU though. That I can actually agree with Aggro on.
Yeah,
Energy?
Yeah.
I really do feel as though
man.
Energy might possibly be the best team right now.
They're looking really good.
Well,
Speaking of other teams who are looking really good, Space Station versus E United is our next matchup today on Monday. Space Station E United, these scrim partners, I mean, we always talk about it with them. They're the top two in NA by it seems like by a large margin just based on the eye test. What is going to be the difference maker in this match, you think?
Maybe even the solo lane, because
Yeah.
I mean we saw it at LAN. Aquarius seemed really confident playing against Benji. I think he still carries that same level of confidence too over in the online portions, and so it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest to see Aquarius maybe even choose to manhandle Benji one more time.
Chunga versus Kukulin. Chunga versus Arpwash.
No,
These are
Lord.
matchups we could actually see in the solo lane this week.
Lord. Well,
it's
if we see
Chunga plus something, that's
I
what I'm
know.
expecting.
I know. And if we see Chonga versus Alpwash, I bet you Annenser is going to be spending a lot of time in that lane.
On the circuit.
On the circuit, most likely. Yeah, I think Andy has been really, really hot or cold so far, not just in the summer split, but during Season 5 in general. When Andy's on, it feels like Space Station is pretty much unbeatable in my mind. Like the way that Aquarius has been playing, the way that Baskin has been playing for all of Season 5, you add in Annenster, if he's playing at a high level, like where do you put pressure? Like where do you go?
The funny thing about the jungle experience right now, I feel in Season 5, is a lot of the junglers are feast or famine every single game. And it feels like if you get off to a good start in the jungle, you're going to have a good time with things. However, if you're further behind, things don't go very well at the beginning of the game, you kind of falter in the jungle these days. That's kind of where I'm at with the jungle position. Andy's just another jungler in the same sort of mentality. That's what it feels like to me.
It also kind of just feels like it's going to heavily depend on whether or not one side's actually going to get the healer compositions that they're aiming for. We've seen a lot of double healer compositions from Space Station, seen a little bit of healer comps coming out of E United, and so both of these teams, being scrim partners, are bound to have a decent idea of the other strategy and maybe look to formulate something different and new off of that.
I think that's one of the reasons we saw the Alposh coming out a little bit from Benji too, is because they are scrim partners with Space Station Gaming, so he's had to deal with Chonga for days and like,
Probably.
how do we break this? Hang on a second, Alposh?
Alposh?
It worked.
It worked. That was against the Aphrodite, but certainly could work against the Chonga as well. All right, in this one, I've got E United. I think that they're going to show up and look pretty good overall. What about you guys?
I think it's going to be close. I gave it over to Barracuda Plot Armor in the end, though, just because in the most recent history, Space Station has beaten E United every time.
I'm the same. I'm gone Space Station Gaming here. Past stats kind of factor in here where you're like, yeah, sure. Okay, they've had the number a couple of times over. Maybe United get it. Maybe you keep your amazing record into next week, or maybe you just keep dropping games. You know? You're the one in the pressure seat because you started ego in it of like having a good first 3 weeks. You know?
No pressure at all. I'm cool, calm, and collected.
73% is not 100%. Remember that.
It is not. It is higher than 66%.
Yeah, but we're all failing if we're going by a grade scale.
No, you guys have D's. D's get degrees. Sometimes.
No, you have a D
I
too.
Mean, that's why
I have a C. What school did you go to? I have a 73%.
I don't know how your numbers work.
Like, what did I?
He's going off the 10-point scale. That's why.
What are you going? Okay, I'm not even going to get into it. Let's go on to Tuesday. Energy versus Obey. Obey, we were all hyped up on them during week 3. You know, they had beaten Energy, like they had turned the corner. It's time for them to do it, and then they kind of fall flat on their face during week 3. How do they bounce back against an Energy squad where you know with this support rivalry that Energy's really invested in this?
By winning. That's how they bounce back from this. I actually think Obey will do this. You two, here's the thing, because I know you two must be going Energy because you both just spoke about you guys thinking Energy probably the best team in the world right now. I'm not on that train.
I think what sealed the deal for me on Obey was when they ended up losing their set against Mouse. That was kind of the end-all be-all for me, at least, in wanting to ever lean towards Obey in terms of giving them set wins, especially over teams that we view statistically even to be at like the top end of Europe. Energy has constantly contested that top 2 position with Dignitas and Rival, and so I just feel that this most likely is going to end up just being another loss for Obey.
I do think that Obey does deserve some credit. When I think of that set against Rival last week, I think of the Geb jungle and how that was a kind of a nightmare. But they did force the 3 games and did look good in game 2 and honestly looked good for a portion of game 3 as well. So I don't think Obey's dead on a Rival here. No. I just think that Energy is looking better than almost everyone else in Europe at this exact moment. I thought they were the better team than anyone else at the beginning of the spring split. Then they kind of tapered off.
I agree with that.
I think they're looking better again, and they're looking back towards where they were during the spring split.
I'll leave it at this. If Obey try to run any pretty prime Neath nonsense this week, it's not going to work out against Energy.
And that's the funny thing about last week. I mean, Obey had to take on a position where they got to experiment a little bit more. It didn't work out great for them. No. But at the same time, against the one team they will always look to beat every single time because of the support focus between these two teams and the switch-up that they had. It's such a big game that I think Obey will come out on top.
Wow. All right. So Graham going with Obey Alliance. Taco, I assume you are on Energy?
I am on the Energy train here.
As am I. So we'll see. One of our percentages is going down.
Oh, I've got Energy losing both games this week. That's why I'm like, woo!
Oh, man, yeah. Okay, our percentages are going to be very different one way or another. Yeah, either way. All right, the next game on Tuesday, that'll be Mouse Sports versus SK Gaming. SK should have won this set at the beginning of the year, or the beginning of this split. It went to game 3. Lloydie had to sub in. SK, I think, looked like the better team during that set. But since then, Mouse Sports has had their roster change. They look really, really revitalized. Whereas SK just continues to look a little bit more defeated.
Revitalize was a key word there for me. I think that's the biggest thing about Mouse Sports, and that's why I think I'm going to be going with Mouse. Well, I am going with Mouse, not think I'm going with Mouse. Just because SK, the same old SK.
Yeah. I would have probably leaned a little bit more towards SK had it not been for this recent week's performance by Mouse, because SK, like you already mentioned, I think that they should have had that set every other day of the week as long as Ducky is there, but unfortunately he just couldn't be. You can't really control a power outage in that way. It just happens. But Mouse being in their current position, I mean, they're not necessarily, going to be overtaking the top 3 spots anytime soon, but I think that they have definitely had this, surge of motivation to perform much better than the public's expectations, and I think even some of our expectations, and they've delivered already with Spudio in that Hunter role, and so I honestly think that they have the momentum to carry them through this week too.
It's also taken into account we had 3 members of this Mouse roster that made it to the World Championships just recently too, and we don't overshadow that. I mean, we do overlook it a lot of the time, but there's still something to be said about some of those members. Well, actually, it's 2 now, isn't it?
2 now, yeah. What's your main gun? Yep.
Point rested. Two members that went to
Two members
Worlds.
still good.
That must be good enough because I'm going Mouse.
I'm going Mouse as well. I just think that they are on the up and up in SK. If they could find even this set, I think it would boost their confidence a lot, but I don't feel very confident about that.
For what it's worth, though, SK have definitely shown some signs of improvement. Even though it hasn't necessarily been overall set wins, they have at least managed to take games off of teams that I think originally we would have anticipated them having dropped the set flat.
To be clear, I wouldn't be surprised if SK win this.
No, me neither.
That too.
Me
like,
neither.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I'm going Mouse, but it wouldn't surprise. I wouldn't turn around and go, "Oh my God, SK beat Mouse." I mean,
I know.
All right, that kind of makes sense.
SK is sitting at 0-5 right now, but they still look better than they did during the spring split, even if their record doesn't show it. Even if their record is actually worse in the spring split, I do think SK is getting better as a squad. Wednesday, we go to now with the NA SPL. Counterlogic Gaming versus Trifecta will open us up on Wednesday. CLG kind of riding that wave, got 2 wins during the last week. There are only 2 wins so far in the summer split. Trifecta, on the other hand, they got off to a hot start, and then now they are faltering. They are sitting at 2-3 as well, I believe. Which team do you think ends up breaking that 2-3 record?
So I have a real testing week for my picks this week of what I'm expecting.
Boy.
Because
I mean, when you're losing so pitifully to me, you got to try and step up somehow. Take some risks, you know?
Yeah, that's the way it's going to be, I guess. And with this, like, I think Trifecta will pick it up this week. I think Trifecta will take it to CLG. I'm still not hot on CLG. I think they're a middle-of-the-pack team that have some superstars that now and again step up, but they never step up at the same time.
I think this was like a whole other level of Zapman that we got to witness from Trifecta. But even still, with that being considered, I think that Zap getting benched ultimately gave him a little bit of motivation to being like, I need to step it up as a Hunter player.
Yes.
So he starts taking things a little bit more seriously, and he looks, I think, a lot more clean than what he has in Season 5, at least during the duration of the spring split. He didn't really have a whole lot of consistency going there. It's only been 1 week, but I think that we definitely saw a newly developed Zapman, and he seems like he's very encouraged to try and stay main roster.
Agreed. Definitely agree with that. I still think that CLG is in a spot where they can make a run during the second half of the summer split. I've got CLG here, but I think all of your points are very valid. I could easily see Trifecta winning this, and it's got to be centered around Paul and around Zapman if they do find that victory.
Like I said, I'm going to either be 100% this week and laughing at you both, or I'm going to be at the bottom. It's okay. I can deal with it.
The risk reward.
I'm an England fan. It's okay.
Yeah. Good luck later today, by the way. I was going to save that for later. I'll probably do it again later anyways. All right. So. You've got CLG as well, Taco.
I gave it CLG because of that Hurry Win performance. Hurry Win looked nuts last week. I think that he's probably going to be looking to have like a repeat because CLG, I don't think that they're a team that's ever going to feel settled knowing how low in the standings they actually are in comparison to the names on that team and where they probably should be.
All right, on Wednesday, our second match will be Luminosity versus Splice. Splice had the first half was a great week. They beat Space Station. That has to be a huge confidence booster. And then they end up dropping to that CLG squad who was 1-3 at the time. Now, CLG obviously better than that 1-3 record kind of dictates, but I still think a lot of Splice fans likely came away with a bad taste in their mouth after that CLG set. Now Luminosity, like where are they going to go after how bad of a start they've had to the summer split?
This feels a little bit like a best-of-3 set is most definitely expected because, and I say that mostly because of the fact that Splice tends to go a little off the wall with their team compositions and things that you look at on paper and assume will never be able to work in a million years. Splice just pulls off fantastically, and that's kind of where I'm curious to see how they're going to match up against Luminosity in the summer split, because Luminosity as well, I think, also really stepped it up in the previous week in that they clearly want a full set win, and they've been really shaping themselves up. I love the innovation that they've taken, especially towards a solo lane role, and so I think that that can make things very interesting between these two teams because of how unconventional both sides tend to go.
Splice like to be underdogs. Splice seem to perform better when they're underdogs and not expected to do well because the pressure is off. This set is against LG. The pressure is, well, definitely on because they're expected to win this. I think this is Splice anyway because Splice have looked way better than LG have this split.
Yeah, I think I've still got Splice here, but that's an interesting point that they do seem to perform better when they're underdogs. That was kind of the first set probably all year where they're hands-down favorites against CLG in a lot of fans' minds and didn't end up performing. We'll have to see if they can bounce back against Luminosity.
If they lose this, then we've got troubles to Splice. Splice probably just dropping lower towards the bottom of the league again this split, where they have a hot start like CLG and then just fade off.
Fair enough. All right, then on Thursday, Rival versus Mousesports will open us up back in Europe once more. Look, Mousesports look better, but
Rival versus no, it's Dig versus Energy first.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. Dig versus Energy
Because
first.
you can't just
trying to
skip
skip all the fun.
I skipped the good one.
You can't have me skipping a prediction I'm going to get wrong.
I'm sorry. I
Come
very
on.
much apologize. Energy versus
Goodness
Dignitas
me.
is what we open with on Thursday. As I said the first time, everyone knows that. Energy versus Dig. This is a premier matchup.
Yep.
The triangle. Normally, Energy would win this match, but it has been broken. You already kind of spoiled your pick,
I
Hindu,
did.
so why don't you go into why you think Dignitas is going to win?
I don't know.
Oh,
He's got a hunch.
I actually don't know. I agree. To be fair, that's sometimes what you have to do.
No,
with
I
predictions.
Yeah, you gotta go
totally
with your gut.
understand that. I get gut feelings all the time, and I just have a gut feeling that Energy's going to win this.
I actually have the opinion of Energy's going to have a bad week this week. I don't know why I think they're going to have a bad week. They're going to lose to Obey, in my opinion, earlier on in the week, and then have to face off against Dignitas. But you also know that if they do lose to Obey, they're going to come in very hot to this, because they always do.
Yep.
Especially when they're angry or they lose a big game. So if anything, Dig would like them to beat Obey on Monday, just so they,
Right.
they're not going to have the anger issue of Energy later on.
I just feel like Energy has never had a problem with Dignitas, and I don't know what it is, but even when Dig is at their peak, when was the last time Energy lost to that team? It has been a lot. I don't know that Energy has ever lost to that team.
Funny
online.
enough, I actually think it's changing now to where we used to talk about teams being able to be very dumpsterish or controlling of a certain team. I think it's individual players versus individual players these days. And now and again, there's a bogey player in a team that you just can't deal with or get away from, because he's always the one to focus you. I feel like Trix gets abused a lot in Dignitas matches versus Energy, and I think that's where the big situation needs to be. Both Trix and Zeros seem to struggle a little bit because they kind of shut down what Zeros wants to do, and also keep Trix out of being the initiator for his team.
I think that a lot of the teams in Europe, too, are also kind of just expecting Energy to play a bit more passive, and then around that 15-20 minute mark, that's when you're going to have to look out for the big team fight that's going to be a deciding factor on whether or not Energy gets to seize the entire map, or if you're going to be able to still hang even with them. And Dignitas just don't ever really seem prepared for that one fight. And whenever they do lose it, they tend to try and go a little bit over aggressive, I think, because they're upset that they missed out on the first one, so they try to make up for it with later engagements, and then those engagements also end up turning against them, and it's just like a never-ending cycle of them falling more and more behind until eventually Energy's closed out the game.
Dig's only game this week as well, so it means he gets a full focus on just on Energy, which is a big talking point.
That's
whereas Energy have to deal with Obey and Dig, and if they overlook Obey to look at Dig, then they lose against Obey, and I'm right, and then I also get the one right against Dig.
But Dignitas plays Rival earlier. We talked about it.
Doesn't matter.
The very first one.
Nice. Energy is who I've got in this one. Graham already spoiled his pick with the Dignitas. Taco with Energy as well. Taco and I are on the same page right now, except for the.
I'm looking to bring you down. That's
actually.
remember how my caster's curse works, aggro.
Oh, that's true. It takes a little bit to go into effect.
Can we just note that I predicted Spring, LAN, and I predicted Worlds now?
Yeah, but you also wrote the script for both of those, so.
Don't tell them that.
Yeah. Hey, it doesn't matter. 73% right here. That's all I'm saying. All right, now we can go on to Rival versus Mouse. Is what I wanted to talk about to open up on Thursday
Rival,
for some reason. Is it really that simple? Mouse looks so much better.
Sure.
I think it could be a best of 3, but Rival still takes us home at the end of the day.
It's Rival.
It's okay. It's
Mouse looking great, but it's Rival.
It's Rival.
If you guys don't have Rival,
it's Rival.
You are crazy. Because even I went Rival.
It's Rival. Okay.
Right.
All right. We can move on. Then on Friday, Space Station versus CLG. CLG getting an opportunity to step up and show that maybe they can still, mess around with the big dudes. Do you think that Space Station is going to smack them down that quickly?
Possibly a 2-1. If we're lucky, it's a 2-1 to Space Station Gaming. It's probably a 2-0 Space Station Gaming now.
I wouldn't be surprised if almost all of these matches ended up being the full-on best of 3 sets. I think the same way for Space Station and CLG. Main reason I have to give Space Station just that little bit more priority is because of their recent performances. Even though CLG had an awesome previous week, that's just 1 week out of the summer split alone, and I think that Space Station have been consistent enough to earn my vote.
Yeah, I think that's really, really fair. I mean, Space Station is one of the top dogs right now. They did end up losing to Splice last week, but I still think that Space Station is going to take this one home. If CLG do win this, though, I think you do have to really consider them a contender for top 2 towards the back half. Keep an eye on that. All right, our final match of the week on Friday, that will be E United versus Luminosity. E United the defending world champions, Luminosity, winless thus far.
Yeah.
So how's England going to do, Graham?
It's one of the best versus one of the worst in the league now on performances. It's like, well, that's a United, right? There's no reason to. No offense, LG. Just you're at the bottom of the league.
I think I might have to hit him with the same.
Yeah, I'm just like
notebook close on that one.
United. Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
England, Tunisia will be closer.
You think it'll? Oh, will it really?
Yeah.
Are you really that worried about? Is this just like England, like pessimism overall?
We're used to this.
You haven't seen the English bad luck.
No, I suppose. I have not.
Football, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. That does it for the SPL. But let's move over to the minor league very quickly. Look, open it back up, Graham. Taco, you as well. That got a little premature there on the book closing. Look, the minor league.
Dramatic effect.
We've got a really big week ahead of us, but we can go back and take a look at the schedule with the scores from week number 2. This continues to just be Insignum versus Very Nice to Me at the top of Europe and NA respectively.
Yeah, Very Nice to Me just looks so good over in North America. That squad has got, we were discussing yesterday, Agro, that squad is basically all SPL talent. Like, they are all SPL talent level. They could jump on a team tomorrow. And I think fit in with a lot of the teams. It's just which team will they end up on. That's where I'm at with Very Nice to Me. It's not a surprise to see them dominate in North America. And same can be said for Insignum in Europe.
I think that's definitely tends to be the case with both of those teams. They've clearly got SPL caliber members. The only reason why I think we don't see those players already in the SPL is because there's solidified roles pretty much with almost every single one of these teams. A lot of members of Insignum and a lot of members from Very Nice to Me both know very well that the players currently in SPL, it's hard to replace them.
Those two teams are the SPL waiting room. That's
literally what it feels like, doesn't it?
If a player needs to get replaced in the SPL for whatever reason, just look at one of those two teams, whichever region you're in, and go, okay, here's the waiting room.
That's who I need.
Which one do we need?
Right, exactly. Just take your role, and you get a pretty good player there for yourself. One team that is starting to look a little bit better, though, in Europe that impressed me this last week was Fear No Evil. This is a team of guys that I wasn't particularly familiar with coming into this split, but they turned up and looked pretty solid overall.
Yeah, I mean, they've had semi-decent performances, kind of just hung around a little bit, and I think just that practice they're getting now at this level is really starting to open them up a little bit. I mean, this is against Optimus Gang, too, who a lot of these players played professionally for quite a while.
Yeah. Lucas actually is one of the big main members that I wanted to focus on for Fear No Evil because he is by far single-handedly carried some of their sets, I think, or at least managed to keep them relevant in the game long enough for the rest of his team to catch up. And I think that, although, Aggro, I know you're always going to hate the way that he chooses to prioritize his itemization. I'll agree. God. It's kind of fried, Lucas. We all know it, and you probably do too.
A lot of SPL players are starting to pick it up, and I don't know. I'm still, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Either way, I think that whole team of Fear No Evil is one to watch out for. Their victory over Optimus Gang is very important because Optimus Gang have their biggest matchup of the year, basically, thus far, just tomorrow against Insignum. So we'll have to see how that one goes. If you want to check out Fear No Evil, you're going to have to wait until next week. They won't be playing on stream this time around, but they will take on Victoria's Secret off stream this week.
That Very Nice to Me Space Station Gold game I'm looking forward to, though.
Yeah.
On Friday.
That should be a lot of fun.
One. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, that does it for us here on the desk. Let's toss it over to Tom as he does Tom stuff.
Thanks a lot, man. It's been a lot of fun watching you do Ryan stuff. Here I am. I've got some of the top plays that we saw this week. Really excited to get into it. The number 3, the first one we take a look at, we're going to be watching fan favorite Barracuda. Who better to watch? He's on the wrong end of things. It's Cyclone Spin this time. New to the role, but he's just going to continue doing his thing. Finds the fancy ricochet and then cleans up before Barracuda can even get off the ground. Baited you there a little bit. That's what I do. Number 2 was also fun. This time we're going to go down into the minor league here, putting these guys on a spotlight. iFates, I mean, listen, if you play like this, you get the lights, camera, action. What do you want from me? Execute 1 and Execute 2. Did the dirty work before that. Then this one, the hot 360, and then follows up here with another, well, he misses that. But we clean up, and he eventually gets the quadra kill. Hot stuff coming out from the minor league. Fates looking on fire. Like I said, you play like that, you get the spotlight, baby. Number 1, back to Cyclone Spin. This guy came out of the solo lane and was nuts there, and here he is again in the hunter role now. It's a quadra kill on Neath, which is why I thought it was important to sort of focus on it. Neath is not your most aggressive hunter. He comes around the backside, finds the old transonics angle, if you will, cuts down 2, and then finds the long shot there. And then he's not done, chases up, shout-outs to the support. Cyclone Spin finish things off with the old swag flip. Gotta love some good old-fashioned Neath play, right? I guess you can choose to love it. Top fail was a little bit different, though. We're going to watch somebody succeed here. Let's take a look at Big Daddy Weekend. The Titan goes down to 1 man. 1 team versus the Titan. And he takes it, just like that. Summer blockbuster here, put out by Luminosity. Obviously, Trifecta take the set. LG have not been able to really find a leg to stand on. But hey, this is something you can put your hat on. Look at this. It's slow motion and everything. That's crazy. Trifecta certainly get the fail for that one. Just, why didn't you back? I don't know. Pretty simple to me. No back there. Even Wolfie from European Wolfie was talking about it. Like, just back. Oh, well. Weekend comes through with the victory for him and his team, soloing the Titan down. Was pretty funny, but, oh, well. We started off talking about Barracuda because he got stomped on, but earlier this week, Hindu talked good things, hopefully, with Barracuda. Let's take a look at their conversation.
Welcome to the section where I'm joined by Barracuda from Space Station Gaming. It's part of Esports Weekly. As always, we bring on a guest to interview, and this week it's all about Barracuda and Space Station Gaming. Barra, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. Now, the reason I brought you on to actually talk to you is I want to know what's going on with you guys in Chonga. Like, what is the addiction that Aquarius has to Chonga? Is it something that you guys have worked out? Why is no one banning it against you? Just talk to me about how you are just getting this pick every single time.
I think the reason we're getting it every single time is there's a lot of good stuff right now and a lot of gods that are like really good bans, and teams are just like, do we have to ban Chonga? Do we let it through? Do we have a strat to handle it? And obviously against Splice, they kind of handled us. So yeah.
So a bit awkward there with the Splice game specifically. What went on with Splice? Like, tell me a little bit more about that. Did they perform better than you expected, or was it just like they just had the rub of the green that day?
They definitely performed better than we expected, and to that same, I guess, regard, we performed way worse than we expected. Things just were not going well those games, and like normally with the drafts that we're drafting, we make it to a certain point in the game, regardless of how far we're behind, and we'll just win, which is basically what's been happening a lot this split. But those games were just rough, and we just struggled for sure.
Just struggled all the way through. Well, talking about performances and things, from everyone's opinion, Barrett, it seemed like spring wasn't the greatest time for you individually, but it seems everything seems to have like stepped up in summer. Is that just Jing Wei effect? Is that what's happened here, or is it like has anything changed with you? Is what we're asking here.
It's a lot of different factors. So basically, in Spring Split, our whole team comp, like what we were drafting, everything revolved around Baskin.
Sure.
I was pretty much over there, and I was like, all right, Barrett, you're going to be in the 1v2. Hopefully you can secure your purple buffs. You're never going to get a red buff because that's going to go to the mid-Uller. Obviously, that's who it should be going to.
Sure.
Trans, Boots. He's going to be power spiking really hard and then get red. He can solo everyone in 1v2, which he was doing the entire Spring Split, basically, and just kill everyone. But I was pretty much just over there, just, killing creeps. And I was like, all right, guys, if you need me for that Gold Fury, you know where to find me. Like, I'll be right around the corner. And everyone talks about, like, me playing bad. So it affected my confidence a little bit because I'm like,
sure,
well, what am I even here for? Like, like you just throw, like, ADC bot 1, 2, 3 over here and just tell him, hey, sit under your tower for, like, I don't know, 15 minutes. And then when we need you for that Gold Fury, like, you'll be there. But yeah, so that kind of affected my confidence. And basically when we went to LAN, I think that's when a lot of people were like, oh, Barracuda's playing well again. But in reality, we just slowed down our drafts, slowed down what we were doing on the map, which was basically, we weren't invading red on cooldown anymore. And so I was able to like play the pick. Well, I'm still playing like the same picks that we need for our drafts. But I'm able to be an influence on the map, and I'm able to do things again, which it feels really great for me, feels really great for my confidence. And I think what we're drafting and what we're playing suits my playstyle and suits what the fans, I guess, desire to see from me.
Yeah.
I guess.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is that a lot of people just know you for your highlight reel plays most of the time and being a major backbone of the team. And it kind of seemed like spring wasn't really that story. And now that you've talked about like the meta changes and like the things that you as a team were doing, it seems that you've gone back in that direction in summer. Was that a focal point from you guys to try and push it back towards that style where you were more prevalent and relevant in the team fights and the game itself?
It was more what happened to us at LAN. So everyone knows we got 3-0'd by Rival.
Yeah.
Our dig set wasn't great either. Basically what happened in those sets, we were still trying to draft the pressure comps. We were still going with the high pressure mids, the hunter mids, giving them red buff and hoping that that pressure through the mid lane could kind of do everything. But then what Europe taught us is that's not really the way you play the game. And they taught us that very hard. And that basically changed our whole mindset going into summer. And I don't even think we played 100 mid yet, summer split. We still think, like, obviously they're good picks, but there's just a different way to play the game. And that different way to play the game suits basically what I'm doing. So it's not like, hey, we need Barracuda to do things again. It's more of just, I'm fortunately in the spot where I'm able to do things again. I'm getting the occasional red buff, and everyone knows a red buff on a hunter, like, you just do so much more damage. So my damage numbers are higher. Hopefully, I think my KDA is a little bit higher.
So if you get red buff, you're going to be playing better. Is that what you're telling me now?
Pretty much, yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, last thing, I don't want to keep you too long because obviously we're going to move on. But last real question for you is, how do you expect to do the rest of the summer split? Obviously, not much of it left. But at the same time, you know, are we looking towards LAN already, or are we taking each game as it comes still?
We're taking each game as it comes for sure. The Splice set taught us a lot. We kind of went into that just kind of expecting to win once we got Chonga. And Splash just played amazing. And so, yeah, we're definitely taking it pretty much each game, like each set, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Barracuda. Best of luck. Do you want to give any shout-outs before I let you go?
Definitely a big shout-out to the Fish Tank for supporting me this long. Shout-out to SSG. Shout-out to Derpy Bear. And shout-out to you guys.
Oh,
thank you.
Thanks, Barra. All right, take care. We'll see you again soon.
Bye, Hindu.
Thanks to Hindu Man for being, like, not a savage. That was a very nice thing. That he said nice things and was just a normal human being. Go England, I guess, is like the trade-off now that I have to be. He was nice, now I will be nice to him.
I didn't hear it, so I don't believe it.
That's fair enough. Community, we're getting a whole new section of the community involved now. If you are on PS4, your time to shine is coming up pretty soon. And not only can you participate in a PS4 tournament, but you could run a PS4 tournament. You could even get on the admin side of things in this one. Make sure you go to hrz.io is what that looks like to me. I've got a little bit of a weird angle. Just go to the link that's below me. I'm not even going to try and read that. Go ahead and go there. You can set up stuff to make your own PS4 tournament work and end up in a better spot and try and make your way into the PS4 Pro scene. We're going to be doing that pretty soon here in Season 5. It's going to be a lot of fun for sure. So make sure you get involved and make sure you can either run it or whatever. Okay, let's go to our meta segment today. I only have one member of the cast with me. It's just me and F. Dot here today. Look,
It's your boy.
Tom, you are just you're gonna have to go with me this time. We're gonna have to have a discussion, and that's just the way it's got to be. I'm sorry.
I suppose I can deal with you for a little bit. I suppose.
You'll get there. I believe in you.
I like this shirt on you.
Thank you.
You look like the Lost Romney son.
I don't like that. I don't at all. I'm never wearing this shirt again, ever,
Tag.
ever. All right. I'm thrown for a loop now. You really got me with that one. Guardian jungles, like we've seen a lot of it this last week in week 3. I mean, we saw the Geb, Cherio still doing Cherio stuff, so that's like whatever to me. But how do you feel like do you think Guardian jungle is like a legit thing again that we're going to start to see even more of?
Yeah, I mean, Guardian Jungle is just a strategy that I think is generally acceptable. All metas you can employ the strategy. It's just a different mentality. Early game, you still have most of the picks, right? I'm isolating Geb jungle here.
Sure.
But most of the traditional jungle picks with the Athena or the Kabrakan or the Emirs, they still bring early damage and early pressure, and then late game turn into a control force. So I think if the enemy draft is receptive to that sort of mentality, then absolutely. I don't think it's something that exists as a meta in and of itself. I don't think we're going to see 12 teams come out here with Ymir jungles, but I think it's always an acceptable strategy, especially when like you took Mouse aside.
Sure, I just feel like you're giving up so much early game control of your own jungle, and that's what Rival did to Obey, right? When Twig is playing that Geb jungle and he just can't even get a camp through the early game because Deathwalker's not letting him, Ice Baby isn't letting him. I just think it's a little bit too risky right now, and I'm like, what Rival did to Obey wasn't Obey really misplaying. It was just Rival played that optimally, and when you play optimally against that Guardian jungle, like Twig was out of the game for a large portion of it. Now Obey almost came back and had a good team fight, but it only took one team fight after that for Rival to win the game for free. You know what I mean?
I think what it comes down to is Guardian jungle. You know me and my take on roles and everything.
Yes. Oh,
and this
here we go.
No. I'll keep it light, but this is definitely one of those where, Geb jungle is not the same level of clear that you would get with a Ymir jungle. Ymir jungle does not get destroyed. He gets his own camps clear. Geb jungle, on the other hand, has much different time clearing. So, yes, they are punishable, but I think some are more punishable than others. The Geb jungle, while I understand it, I don't love it, largely because I think you give up too much of that early game pressure. If you pair the Geb jungle with hyper early, mid, and solo, we can have a conversation.
Sure.
But realistically, I think if you're going to do this strategy, it's more about not just Guardian, select it, and slap a selection. Find the Guardian that's for the strategy, and more importantly, you're thinking about that beforehand. You're saying, all right, they have characters that can really be abused by this Athena, Kabrak, and Ymir. We're going to do this. Early game will have the pressure because they can clear actually. Late game, they'll turn into warriors, and we'll have that damage elsewhere. It's a big picture thing, and it doesn't mean one size fits all in the Guardian role.
RDO jungle, thumbs up, thumbs
super
down.
Thumbs super down.
Super
thumbs
down.
Super down. When you look at junglers, you got to have like gank ability, like burst damage, crowd control, etc. RDO doesn't really have any of the check boxes, right? She's great in a team fight, and so sometimes we see Mouse pick a god in the jungle that's less of a jungler and more of another
team fighter,
character,
right.
And we'll just see 12 minutes, 15 minutes. That's the mentality you go in with RDO, and I think right now in the meta, that is a losing strategy.
Fair enough. All right, if you're going to be taking a Guardian in the jungle, would you rather be doing it in first or second pick? It's less about the Guardian jungle here, more about, do you think first or second pick is a stronger spot to be in right now in the meta?
Yeah, as far as specifically with Guardian jungle, I'll probably just say second pick because I think second pick is overall just better.
Okay.
Right now specifically, there are a number of characters that are first pick, first bannable, right? And there are a number of characters that don't necessarily tilt you in one direction or the other. So with 4 bans going out, there are still like, all right, well, Hebo's open, Ra's open, like there are still multiple choices.
Sure.
So the idea of I'm first, I get that coveted selection isn't really there. I would much rather be able to respond in the early draft.
I do think that at the minor league or anything below SPL, I think second pick is significantly better right now. At the pro league level, however, I think there are player god combinations that you can't avoid if the enemy team is in first pick. I'm thinking like against Dignitas, you can't really stop zeros from going Giannis and simultaneously keep variety off of Achilles. Like you just can't do it. So it favors those teams to be in first pick slots a lot of the time. But I agree with you overall. I think that second pick is in a slightly better spot.
Yeah, it is. I talk about learning the rules before you break the rules always.
Sure.
Second pick is better, full stop. But if you've gotten to the point of your game where you can sort of ignore the traditional, like a team like Dignitas, because is there a reason to ignore the traditional? Well, they've banned out my mid laner, but I'm going to give Cuvo Fred the Hun Bats. Like, you can't ban everything from us. Yes, I'm with you. But by all means, everyone else in the world, not meaning Dignitas specifically, but everyone else that doesn't have that, oh my gosh, they gave Wolfie Ra moment, just go second pick. It's safer for the team as a whole.
Really, really quickly, don't Anatoly me here. Do you think that Hun Bats is just Cuvo Fred looking like a god on Hun Bats, or do you think we should see more Hun Bats overall in the meta?
Both.
Fair enough. All right. Thanks for not Anatolying me with that one. We got a meme video for you here this week. I'm going to be honest. On my notes here, it just says basketball smite. I've got nothing. Let's take a look.
We mess with basketball. Wow. Mask
What
gonna
year is
get
it?
his nemesis. Yeah, really. Like, what year is it?
Do you actually not know?
Yeah, 2002.
Well, it might as well be, considering the matchups that we have going on between Snoopy, Met Yankee. Never thought that we'd see Ari win against Paul, though.
Yeah, maybe I should check myself on that. He definitely had a huge
You don't want to
impact
wreck yourself.
He definitely had a huge impact on that Odin, so I think I'll rectify that.
There's actually 2 blinds on Revenge here, and if you time it right, you can actually illuminate people's screens with your raw blind, because it blinds you by being too bright, whereas Geno's blinds you by being too dark. Anti-synergy.
I wish you could see Ryan's face right now, because I can't. I refuse to look at him after that bit. He's putting his face in my face right now.
Hi, Tom. It's going to be a lot of fun. You should be there. I'll be there. Tom will too, but if you don't want to talk to him, that you don't have to. Like, you can easily avoid him. You can usually, like, tell where he's going to be. You know, you can kind of understand where you can smell him coming is what I'm trying to say. And you can avoid that part of the building very, very easily. You don't have to worry about that. But me, come and give me a high five. I'll see you there. Tom, nah, never mind. We're good. Make sure you're here soon, though, because you've got an opportunity to see an excellent SPL game starting at 3 o'clock. It's going to be Energy versus Dignitas to start us off. Tom, you excited about that one? He's real excited. He's just at a loss for words. He's so excited about it. It's going to be awesome. 3 o'clock. Make sure you're here. Go take care of whatever you got to take care of, because you got to be here whenever it's time for the SPL at 3 o'clock. We'll see you then. Peach it.
But Finch here, I got aggro with me, and this is huge. Splice beat Space Station, and I don't have favorites, Ryan. I don't root for anyone over anyone else, but I think the league is better because Splice won that.
Well, first of all, Splice had a
Now rapping basketball, number 1, Curtis Flow. Basketball is my favorite sport.
I regret to inform you that Tom did, in fact, wreck himself. He forgot to check himself in that spot. Yeah, he wrecked himself. It kind of happens to everybody. What can you say? All right, let's go to the SCL. Look, this league in Europe in particular continues to be dominated by Rival. You know, every week it's like, okay, what am I going to talk about when it comes to European SCL? And every week I'm just left with, well, Rival continues to look really damn good. This team is the team to beat still in the summer split. There's been a lot of change-ups in North America. A lot of teams are getting better there in NA. And I just don't know how much it matters yet. Obviously, a lot of these teams can compete with Rival. Rival didn't, make everyone look completely silly at the Spring Masters LAN, but they definitely looked like the best team, and they continue to do that. And I think one of my worries about Rival overall coming into this split was how hungry were they going to be. They'd finally done it. They'd finally, won a LAN for the first time in forever, literally ever in Europe. Were they going to be able to stay hungry and stay ready? And they've done that. They're sitting up on top of Europe. Fable, the team that went to LAN, by the way, alongside them, complete goose egg so far in Europe. On the other side, though, Flashpoint, Elevate, they're competing near the top of North America. Another team that went to LAN and now is looking pretty bad, Astral Authority, sitting at 0-2 so far. Now, NA has seen a lot of roster changes. There's been a lot of stuff going wrong and a lot of stuff moving around in North America. We'll have to see once the dust settles who looks like the best team in NA thus far. On to the global series, there are a lot of teams that are competing to go to LANs like, say, I don't know, Black Dragons did during the spring split. But Black Dragons and the rest of Brazil continue to get better, and because of that, Black Dragons have some competition in that region now. I think this is what we are all kind of waiting for, right, in the global scene. This ability for teams that have dominated the region for so long to then spread that knowledge, spread the wealth a little bit, and end up looking a little bit better. Watch out for these Brazilian teams, man. Black Dragons, still the best team in Brazil. Do not get me wrong. I don't want anyone to think I'm saying otherwise. But the rest of the region is getting better, and that's exciting to see. And this is going to be a slow process. It was a slow process in Europe, for God's sakes, with the SPL. Remember, Season 0, Season 1, it was all NA, all the time, basically. None of the European teams could really hang. Then Panthera / Epsilon / Energy came through, and by their dominance, the rest of the region got better. And it's kind of the plan for SGS, and it's starting to come to fruition. If you want to check out Brazil, as the region I was just talking about, Tuesday at 11 a.m. is the time to do that, aka tomorrow at 11 a.m. All of the regions, though, I think are getting on the up and up. Oceania's been a lot of fun to watch recently with Bang the Drum coming together and a lot of those old names coming together and rising up in the ranks of Oceania. Make sure you check out Global Series. It's been a lot of fun to watch as of late. Speaking of fun to watch, thanks for watching us. I hope you had a lot of fun. Make sure you give me your feedback on Twitter, as always, at HighResAggro. Appreciate you guys watching us here on Esports Weekly. And as always, we're going to leave you with our moment of Toli.